Welcome to episode 96 of the Leap Home, Memphis Melody.
In this week's episode, Sam must help a young Elvis Presley save a friend from committing to a violent relationship without jeopardising his own budding music career. When he misses a scheduled audition, can he persuade a busy producer to hear him sing? Or will the world be robbed of a singular talent?
He's at a dinner.
He's at a dinner?
Yeah.
In the middle of the afternoon, he's at a dinner?
He's at a dinner having diner.
What?
Good afternoon, Ian. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Gerry. I don't understand the confusion in that clip. That's when you have dinner
At a diner?
in the middle of the afternoon.
No.
It's the middle meal of the day.
No, I mean, it depends where you come from. I have my dinner at night. Some people have their tea at night.
But when you went to school, the woman that served you food was called the dinner lady.
Yes, you had school dinners.
At lunchtime.
Yeah. But also dinner time was after lunchtime.
Oh, it's so confusing.
Yeah.
You'll have had your tea.
We don't want to start with roasted cheese or toasted cheese. That's
Cheese on toast or toasted cheese. Those will be fine.
I think that's quite...
Controversial.
Well, yeah, controversial, but parochial.
Okay.
Anyway, the penultimate episode.
It is, and a fun one. Bit silly, bit low stakes, but it's good fun.
Yes, it was generally fun, but I think there's one fairly dark theme or aspect to it that the show itself addresses, but then very casually dismisses towards the end, and we'll chat about.
As is its way.
Certainly.
I should say at this point that I love Gerry Iain and everything that he does, and this is no exception.
Who was he?
He was Phillips, the producer.
Okay, trivia up front this time?
No, we'll do it at the end.
Okay. So, before we begin, we've only got 2 left, so let's do the socials.
Yeah, there's no point contacting us on social media because by the time you hear this, we'll have given up.
But there's a new one.
We do have a new one. Well, it's a unified account for all of our podcasting called Colombo Podcast on Blue Sky. So if you're on Blue Sky, you can follow us. We're at colombopodcast.bsky.whatever.
There will be an announcement on there. I think probably next week on here is we've got a new project or even projects.
Well, no, by the time people hear this, they'll have already heard about the new project.
Spoilers.
Well, we can't spoil it when you heard it before. So yes, even on this feed, we'll put it out on this feed, so you've probably had a bonus episode on this feed a couple of weeks ago that told you all about what we're about to tell you about. This episode, if you're listening on your podcast feed, is being released on Christmas Day.
I'm more confused now than I am.
Happy Christmas, Gerry. Congratulations. I like your hat.
Yeah, the jumper. Anyway.
What's that cracker? Are you going to put... That's not a cracker.
Oh, let's rock on.
We begin where we finished last week's episode, in a corridor and then a dressing room as Sam is dragged before a mirror to have his fringe trimmed.
More than that, I think. Yeah, he finds himself clutching a guitar case whilst being manhandled into a chair by 2 jock-looking types who insist that Elvis needs a haircut.
Oh boy.
We don't see these 2 chaps again, I don't think
we do at all. One of them we've seen lots of times before. This is like his 4th episode.
Was it?
He's called Bo. But yeah, I don't think he comes up again in the episode.
After this, we have the credits, and we return backstage to a fast guitar-picking score with Sam trying to wrestle free from these demon barbers as we see it when...
It's the 3rd of July 1953. Sam seems to be having the rough end of this fight before he is offered some aid by a friend.
Yes, a red-headed chap in his 20s, I would assume, maybe even a little bit younger, who seems surprised that Sam doesn't understand that he always helps him out.
Yes, I think we find this is Red West.
He tells him that they have to get out there and advises him to comb his hair, but Sam looks in the mirror and goes all Fonzie as he considers with a smile that it looks cool. No need to change it.
Red does drop in an all shook up reference here as well.
There are a few times in this I must admit, I was waiting for him at one point to say, excuse me, don't step on my blue suede shoes.
Yeah.
All these little references and nods. It can become a little bit... As you know, Back to the Future is my favourite sort of trilogy movies of all time, but even then there's still things that are just too on the nose. And this, yeah.
I don't know if we need to mention them all.
No, we
People
won't.
obviously notice them.
Yes.
So they head upstairs, I presume, to this talent show rehearsal.
Where he has to pretend to be doing a vocal exercise to cover for the fact he's talking to Al.
Yes. While this is happening, a friend of Elvis called Sue Ann comes on stage to do her rehearsal performance.
Oh yeah, I mean, so we can see this is a fairly low rent competition, because before her there is a man with a pig, I think, doing, so I don't know what he's doing.
Very regional.
Playing the pig.
She can't perform because she is incredibly nervous. Stage fright, you might say. So Al believes he's a little bit late on this occasion.
Why is that?
Ziggy apparently is a big fan of Elvis and is now operating at diminished capacity because of her excitement.
He does, however, let him know that he's sitting beside Red West, one of Elvis's best friends. I think he was part of what was known as the Elvis Mafia.
Okay.
His hardcore...
Inner circle.
Yes. Meanwhile, as you mentioned, on stage, this young woman, Sue Ann, isn't it?
Sue Ann, yes.
Yeah, she's literally struggling to stop from being sick with nerves as she attempts to sing before rushing off stage.
She does, and this causes some concern for Sam.
I don't know why. It's nothing to do with him. As far as he knows, he's watching some stranger on the stage.
A vulnerable female stranger.
Well, that's it, isn't it? So there's someone who can't perform. Not untypical. A talent competition, there'll be plenty of people who bottle it when they stand in front of the lights, but he can't help himself.
Due to his saviour complex.
Yes. He can't leave her alone, and so he chases after her and grabs her arms while telling her to breathe. Stop touching people and invading their personal space.
Yeah, and also making demands like this.
Yes.
He's so aggressive the way he speaks to folk when he thinks he's being kind, I guess.
However, she has to run off again in order not to spew. And so Sam asks Al again why he is there.
So, I know Ziggy is working under some kind of a diminished capacity, but she's got to have some idea as to what I'm doing here, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're singing in the Southern Salute to America.
No.
It's a talent contest. This here is a rehearsal.
No. Why am I here as Elvis Presley?
Because this is a very important time in Elvis's life. In only 2 days, he gets discovered.
He got discovered just fine without my help.
You're not here to help Elvis.
What?
81% chance you're here to help Sue Ann.
Well,
But not now.
Al, I gotta go find her. I may never see her again.
You'll see her again. No,
What?
she's a local. She works at Taylor's Diner.
Look, if I'm supposed to help her, why can't I start helping her right now?
Because no matter what you do,
Yeah?
you cannot mess up for Elvis or change anything, because you'll change history big time.
Al, if I go check on Sue Ann, how is that gonna affect Elvis's life big time?
Well, it is,
Elvis
because
Presley here.
you're on.
Huh? On?
On.
I'm on?
On. You're on.
Come on, son, let's go.
On.
Oh, I wish I were in the land of cotton, old times there.
So as we hear, he ends up giving a very low energy performance of Dixie, which causes Al to remind him that he is a legend before he himself exits stage door somewhere.
What an interesting song choice for Sam to make.
Very popular at the time.
Very controversial. Banned in many places now.
Is it banned? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Well, I'm not know about banned, but certainly a lot of places which used to play it a lot now don't. For example, Oklahoma University used to play all their sports events and now don't play it at all because it's considered to be non-inclusive.
Of course. Well,
Very, very southern.
I mean, Dixie refers to the Mason-Dixon line, doesn't it? That's the split between North and South. And there's something about there, a guy from Bolton was one of the Mason or the Dixons. I think, I might be making this up, but I think it was a guy from Bolton in the UK or somewhere in that sort of Manchester area who was involved in, because I think there is a stone or something that separates it.
Okay.
But anyway, that's something from the back of my mind. Anyway, where were we? Or where are we?
Well, at the end of this terrible performance, we head to a diner.
Yeah, sitting at a booth in Taylor's Diner, Sam admits that he was a little off before surprising Red by referring to Sue Ann as Miss.
Yeah, so Sue Ann works here. Al mentioned that in the clip.
Yeah, they're looking to place an order and they clearly know each other.
Yeah, and Red takes the opportunity to mock Sue Ann for her earlier concerns.
And when she walks off, Sam follows and apologises and claims that they've came here just to see her. Why is he making
this is ridiculous.
statements that he doesn't know?
For starters, he doesn't know if that's even in character for...
Yeah, well, I mean, this bold lie immediately is shown up when she points out that they've been coming there for ages and have never paid her any attention. But he insists it's different and that he is...
his whole life now revolves around her.
No, he actually says that he is shook up himself.
She does have an incredibly negative mindset about her talent. We should say that at this point. She's got no interest in pushing herself or no concept that she could be good.
This feels very similar to, what was the one with the old woman who wanted to be a singer?
Yes, right. I know the one you mean.
Same idea, and I think actually the same outcome, which we'll get to. But having talent, to being a good singer, someone who's got a good voice,
yep.
There are plenty, dime a dozen. There are people, you go to your local karaoke or local talent contest, but this is exactly what I remember making the point in that particular episode. Being a star, being a performer is more than having the technical capabilities.
Yeah, charisma. And
this person cannot, I mean, she's vomiting on stage.
Yeah.
Maybe being a performer is not for you. You can have a good voice and you can go to the local church choir if that's what you're into. You can do karaoke. You can do whatever. You can impress your family and friends. And when you've got a drink in you, you take the microphone. But it doesn't mean to say because you're a good singer, you should be, that should be your job.
No, exactly. And Sam doesn't have that view at all. He thinks anyone with talent should be encouraged to pursue that talent to the fullest possible extent,
and
regardless of how it affects the rest of their life.
And we see in this episode that it's a nonsense anyway.
Absolutely. On this occasion, she tries to fob him off when he tries to insist that she's good, and he pushes her, asking her what her favourite kind of music is, and he then starts singing Amazing Grace and getting her to join in with him.
Not only that, but he says that stage fright can be a good thing and shows that it can make your knees knock and get you moving. So he does his sort of like
Elvis dance. Yeah.
She laughs, but then laments losing her dream of playing. It was at the opera. And when Sam tells her that dreaming is good, she responds that they hurt too much when you wake up. So he is very, as his wont, very insistent that she give it a go. But she rightly asks him why it matters to him. So they've been cut. They're local, and I imagine Sam's maybe one of the sort of big guys on campus type people. You know, he's got known to be some.
He's got a reputation.
Yeah, he's obviously a confident chap. He's never paid her any attention. All of a sudden now he's telling her to follow her dreams, and it's just weirdo behaviour. They never considers how odd this must seem.
Absolutely. And like I say, he does eventually persuade her to start singing with him.
He grabs her by the arms again. This is the second time in a matter of, an hour. He physically, invades someone. And as you say, I think they start off by singing Amazing Grace. So she overcomes her shyness and joins in, accompanied by the cook on harmonica.
Which presumably he always has ready for such an occasion.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a bit of slack here. I think this type of town, this area, I think everyone...
It's Memphis, isn't it?
It's Memphis. I think in this era as well, a very musical place.
Shouldn't go out without your Mithy.
Exactly. So, they finish and she gets a round of applause and Sam grabs her again to tell her that she has a lot of talent and gives her some cheesy lines before Red hands him his guitar and tells them both to do another.
Not only that, he also manhandles Sue-Ann, lifting her up onto the diner's bar.
But before they can begin, in walks Sue-Ann's, I'd say sort of square, straight-laced fiancé, Frank. Who makes it clear that he doesn't like the boy, Elvis, hanging around the diner with his women.
Yeah, so he's not a nice man.
No, he's not. We find out he's definitely not. You should understand a bit of jealousy and Sam constantly harassing and touching your girlfriend.
It's the possessiveness that's the problem, and also the fact that he's just an unpleasant guy generally. He calls Elvis bad news, which gets right up Sam's nose straight away. And it's
really strange, and we've discussed this before in if you remember the DJ episode where rock and roll was banned.
Yes.
And it's just so quaint, isn't it, that a guy like Elvis having his look and and he's a very polite by all accounts, sir and ma'am and all that type of stuff. But because he maybe wears a leather jacket or his hair slicked back and it's slightly longer, that he's a bad news guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like sort of the James Dean look. Looking back now, it's just a caricature of sort of the rebel, and it's quite funny.
Yeah, Sam isn't going to back down to this guy, and he almost aggressively asks him to join them to eat because he's not leaving, but is told that Frank will not sit with barnyard animals.
No. He takes Sue-Ann by the arm and tells her sister, who's also working there, the waitress, to cover her shift before warning Sam to keep his distance.
Oh, that'll be him told.
He reminds me a little bit of, I can't mind the sort of bad guy in Teen Wolf.
Okay.
I can't remember his name.
This is probably the 10th Teen Wolf reference.
Probably, but is that sort of relationship as well? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we cut to a little bit later on.
Not much later, I don't think. Sue-Ann and Frank have left, and Julie, Sue-Ann's sister, fills Sam and Red in on Frank's prospects and why Sue-Ann might be interested in him.
Yeah, apparently he's a good catch. His family owns the biggest shoe factory in Louisville.
Okay.
Made me laugh, but I mean, back then you weren't buying any sort of Chinese imports or anything like that. Everyone was made, so everyone needed shoes.
It's like the Jumanji film.
Is it?
The original one.
I can't even remember.
Robin Williams' family have a shoe factory.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Oh, definitely. No, if you made shoes back in the day, American made. Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Red sniggers at this, but Al informs him that Julie's right. They end up married, and so Sam sends Red off while he uses the phone to cover his talk with Al.
He does. Al tells him that after just 2 years of marriage, Frank is going to leave Sue-Ann, having beaten her with the back of his hand regularly in the interim period.
Yeah, and that's the big issue I have with this episode, which we can get to at the conclusion.
Obviously, Sam is appalled by this and tells Al that they must not allow this to happen.
I don't know why.
Is he going to go into saving all the beaten wives in America, or just this one?
Well, it's not that. It's not even he's not there to stop the abuse. He's there to... That's not the primary concern.
He wants to get a singing contract, yeah.
But like I say, Nashville, as we see, even the cook, the chef, is talented.
Yeah.
And he might or might not make it. It doesn't... Everyone is not... Yeah.
Al has a warning for Sam at this point.
What's that?
He says he must not mess things up for Elvis. At this point, the risk-reward calculation of the leap is coming into question, because the things that he could ruin are far more valuable than the things that he could save or gain or produce.
Because see, this is the thing. We know Sue-Ann is not a famous person, so he's not there to make sure that some other incredible career starts. But you're risking one of the most, 10 most famous people of all time, most successful people of all time. You're risking that for I don't know why.
He could have leapt into anybody else. Like, he could have leapt into the cook or Red or somebody else and not risked Elvis's career.
He could have leapt into Sam. He should have leapt into the manager who's got
and just make the decision.
Say, give you a contract and we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah.
Anyway, they both agree that they need to stop or change Sue-Ann's position, but can't mess up Elvis's future, which starts with him cutting a record for his mother's birthday in the morning at Sun Studios. Now, Ian, before we even, we've not really chatted about this, are you an Elvis fan, or do you know enough about the sort of the trivia that Sun Studios, that means something to you?
Yeah, well, that's where he cut his first single.
Yeah, but Sun Studios is a hugely, not just for him, it wasn't just because of that. And
Memphis, Tennessee is obviously the hotbed of this type of country music as well.
And Sun Studios, I mean, Jerry Lee Lewis and all that, that's where they all recorded, so it's a very, very famous recording studio. I thought maybe that's one of the things that's one of these gaps that you've got.
In my knowledge.
Yeah.
About Sun Studios.
No, just about sort of general culture.
We'll never know because you've told me now.
Yeah.
My mum's a huge Elvis fan. That's her very favourite person.
You told me the other day that she was, and I questioned that.
What do you mean? As in she isn't anymore?
Yeah. She still is.
She still likes his records.
But he's dead.
Doesn't really care about him so much that he's not around.
Okay. Well, cutting this record.
Yes.
What's he going to do?
He has to impress Marion, the agency's talent spotter, or the record company's talent spotter, who's going to bring him to the attention of the big producer, Sam Phillips.
Yeah, and Al tells him he'll see Sue-Ann at the contest the following evening and then leaves for a private conference in the waiting room.
Yeah, so Al's running late because Elvis has promised to put on a show for them. But Sam is also running late.
Now, again, we won't be able to address this now because at this stage of the podcast, here's the thing. People go into the waiting room.
Yep.
The Leapies. If it's an average Joe Blogs, when they come back out, there is still a risk that they're going to talk about this. My question is, do they have their minds wiped? Because...
No, I don't think so, because we're back in the Roberto episode. Remember, Sam did a lead into the next episode. I'll be talking about getting abducted by aliens and all this stuff.
Right, okay.
I think it's just people realise that no one will believe them and they just assume they were dreaming.
Which is fine when it's a nobody.
But then they've lost 2 days of their life.
But this is Elvis.
Yeah.
So 2 things can happen here. Elvis starts talking about it. The least likely scenario is that people believe him because he's Elvis. But more likely is that he doesn't get a record deal because they think that he is a mentalist.
A liability.
A complete, yes. And that would start playing with him. We've said this before. Down the years, he remembers that it starts to fade, but he goes, did that really happen? Did I? Was that a dream? This must cause serious mental stress, at the very least.
Yeah. Someone needs to write the counter-narrative for all these episodes.
I mean, it would be easy just to say they get one of these Men in Black type, they forget those 2 days and they go back to normal.
Yeah.
Simple. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he tells him he's going to be late for dinner with his mother. It's interesting, we never see his father, who's quite a famous person in Elvis history.
Guess it was too difficult to cast.
Okay. So we're at his home.
Sam has to apologise for his tardiness. He has no excuse for being late for dinner.
I think his mother respects that he doesn't try and lie.
She does. And after a quick grace, he tells his mother that the rehearsal went well, which is a lie, and he's going to get even better.
The few times we see him talk to his mother annoyed me, I must admit. He uses his future knowledge to confidently claim that he will become a star, bigger than Perry Como and Pat Boone combined,
yes,
and will be able to take care of all her financial obligations.
I suppose that he's a dreamer. His mother would just say he's a dreamer. It's not as bad as some other times when he's done this. Like last week when he was like, yes, in future you'll be equal with us amazing white people. Yeah,
fair enough. Okay, so we go to Sun Studios where an anxious Sam is in the recording booth.
He overthinks this quite badly.
It's obviously the next day, and Red promises Marion that she will have heard nothing like him before.
However, he begins to get a bit concerned as Sam stammers and stutters and can't make up his mind what to sing.
Al shows up and tells him he needs to sing My Happiness, and that's when your heartaches begin. But Sam doesn't know these, and as you say, Red starts to look quite concerned that he isn't his usual confident self.
Marion is also unimpressed and tells him that the time is ticking on and he needs to get going.
So Al tries to do his thing of teaching him on the hoof.
This would never work.
No. We've seen him do it before with things like playing pool or boxing. Or
it's a slightly different situation than when you're playing a song and you want to keep in time. And
it's not as bad, however, as the time he tried to teach him how to become a gunslinger. That's true. Outdraw
or a boxer.
Yeah.
However, Sam is very unimpressed with the song that Al is trying to get him to play.
And so, when this doesn't work, Sam decides to back himself to sing Blue Christmas. We don't get to hear this effort, but it seems not to have been a disaster as we catch up with them after the recording.
$75, $1. You can pick up your record tomorrow.
Thank you.
No, but wait, she's got to play it for Phillips.
Listen,
Tell her.
Is there any chance Mr. Phillips might like to hear this?
It's hard to be in the mood for Christmas carols in July.
Well, I know that, but...
No, Sam, you can't leave because Ziggy's projecting that Elvis never meets
Get this then. Do you think he might be at the talent show tonight at the social hall?
Oh, Mr. Phillips is far too busy for talent shows.
Well...
Tell her it's a regional show. Really big.
It's a big regional talent show. And there are going to be a lot of fine performers there that he might want to take a look at. Plus the fact that I understand that there are going to be some talent scouts from Nashville there.
Good. The odds are going up now. Marion's thinking about going. Good.
Actually, I usually screen the new acts around here. I have a real eye for talent.
Is that so?
Touchdown. I'm going to run this by Ziggy, but I think we're back in the game.
Does that mean that I'll see you tonight?
Are you going to sing?
It's what I do best, ma'am.
So do we think that she was going anyway? Because in her capacity as a talent spotter, you would imagine that she knows all of these, certainly within the region, all the competitions and things like that.
Yeah,
you would attend.
She'd be fully aware. I suspect that maybe she was slightly charmed by Sam/Elvis.
Yeah.
In order to convince her to go.
Who wouldn't be?
Well, maybe not by Sam.
Yeah.
That's another point I need to make later on. We'll come back to that.
Right.
We're now at the Southern Salute to America talent show.
Yeah. As Sue-Ann nervously waits beside Sam in the wings, an upbeat Al tells him that if he performs, he will likely win over Marion.
The act before Sue-Ann is Little Bill C from Arkansas, or Little Billy C, which is a Bill Clinton reference as he plays his saxophone.
Indeed. She is then called on stage, but again is struck with stage fright and is on the verge of vomiting.
Sam can't let this be.
So against Al's advice,
he walks on stage and supports her.
Yes, with his guitar, he manages to relax her and turns things around with a successful duet. The audience stand and cheers as they exit the stage.
Frank doesn't seem quite as happy as the rest of them.
Before that, they're met by Marion, who wants to see him at the studio the next day, but with Sue-Ann as a duo.
Yeah, it looks like Sam's lost his own slot in the talent show to support hers.
Yeah, she also lets them know that they have to be on time as Phillips leaves for Nashville in the afternoon. Sue-Ann is obviously delighted, but Al is not pleased.
No, he thinks Sam's turning the king of rock and roll into Donnie and Marie.
And as you mentioned, an equally annoyed Frank storms off after seeing Sue-Ann and giving Sam a massive kiss and cuddle. And
yeah, we also saw Frank in the crowd, though, at the end of the performance.
Did
When
we?
the standing ovation happened, he was looking a bit uncomfortable there as well.
yeah, because we know that that's not, he doesn't want her to have this type of career.
Yes, he was probably quite happy that she was struggling.
Yeah.
He could have been the sympathetic sort of, rock for her. And say,
Sure.
no, this isn't for you, let's do what I want to do.
So later on, with the place emptying, a dismayed Al tells him that the chances of the duo getting a contract are only 19-1. Just now in the second last episode, we start going to fractional
Odds, yes, from percentages. Who knows? Apparently the world's not ready for Sonny and Cher, and never will be.
Sam, of course, doesn't really care and admits that he is attracted to, he actually says it here, her vulnerability.
Yes, and so Sam decided now he's going to not let Elvis have a solo career. Unilaterally.
Absolutely unbelievable.
This is wild.
Yes.
Frank sees Sam talking to himself and is a bit perturbed, but it doesn't put him off confronting the singer.
Yeah, I mean, he thinks that there's something. He's so full of his own confidence. He thinks that he, as a talent agent, has got the ear or the eye.
Yes.
That if he thinks, see, that's the thing as well. It's that ego. I don't listen to someone. I could listen to, I say plenty of people, and go, oh, they sound really good to me because I'm not a singer. Yeah. But I wouldn't have the audacity to say, well, I know they'll definitely be a star because it's not my job. It's not my skill. Anyway,
and even the folk whose job it is don't get it right all the time.
They get it wrong most of the time.
Yeah.
But it's a numbers game.
Yeah, but they don't care when folk fail.
No.
Whereas Sam is kind of locking in on this being a success.
Also, Al informs him that Elvis's PR team, I don't know if he had a PR team back then, did you?
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Didn't want Elvis having a girlfriend.
No, I think he's talking about later. So this is like, you can't do this because...
Yeah, okay, yes. Well, I mean, it's still the same situation today. They don't like the sort of the boy bands.
Particularly in Korea, it's like almost the cardinal sin if you get involved.
Is this K-pop stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with that around that.
Yeah. Well, it's always been the case. People, you want the fans to think they've got a chance of being with the boy or the girl from the band. And in any case, in 3 years' time, he meets Priscilla and he's not got to jeopardise that. But again, we should say that it's well known that she was about 13 at the time.
Yeah, but also Sam doesn't seem to care.
No.
He's like, whatever, I like this girl now.
Yeah.
And I'm here. And who cares about Elvis? I'm Sam and I like her.
Yeah. Oh well.
Which is a standard sort of approach in these situations.
Yeah. As they argue, an angry Frank strides up to the boy and isn't interested in shaking hands and calling it a day.
No, first of all, he shakes off having seen Sam talk to himself, which must seem a little bit strange. And then he tells Sam that he's compromised his lady's honour. Yeah,
as he shoves at him. And despite Sam pointing out that she's talent and doesn't belong to him, he punches him in the gut.
Yeah, and he says that she has a delicate condition, which he doesn't get into any further, and Sam rejects as an idea.
I think he's maybe talking about her timidness, her nervousness.
Maybe.
Maybe a bit of IBS.
Anxiety or something. yeah, maybe.
Anyway, this punch results in them having a back and forth for a few minutes until Red eventually grabs Frank. But unfortunately, Sue-Ann returns at this point to see what looks like the two of them attacking her fiancé.
Yeah, she realises at this point that everything they've been saying about Elvis is true, and she takes Frank home.
And we can see that he takes advantage of playing the...
Oh yeah.
He sort of hobbles off. I mean, I could have taken him, but there were two of them and they sucker punched me. Yeah. So back at his house, his mother tends to his bust up face as she warns him to stop fighting or it's going to cost him his job.
There's then a really odd sequence where Sam reflects on Elvis's place in history and some newsreel place.
Yes, we've got this. Well, okay, before we get to that, he tells her that he knows everything's going to be fine.
Same thing you said before,
worry,
yeah.
And he goes on to tell her about the rich lifestyle he's going to provide her with, which seems to do the trick. Again, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we get this montage of sort of 50s Americana as Sam describes how 54 was still a time of innocence and the belief in the American dream.
Racism.
Yes. Which he personified, I suppose, yeah, because he was sort of dirt poor himself and he made it. And he realises that Elvis was just a normal person and wonders if he may have been happier staying that way. But he does have a chance to help Sue Ann. So
he doesn't care about losing Elvis's career because maybe he'll be happier. Yeah,
he contradicts himself. He does consider the reality. And I think if you look at it, yeah, Elvis died in his early 40s.
Yeah.
So if you're just looking at it purely from that lifespan point of view, yes, Elvis would have been better off working a normal job, not becoming a superstar. He would have probably lived till his 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
And we know that his relatives, drug problems as well. So even the last few years, he was overweight and he abused himself in all sorts of ways. So you could easily argue that the stardom made him miserable.
Sure.
Which Sam accepts, but he still is determined to take this very vulnerable and someone who's not a natural. Elvis had the natural confidence, I think,
sure.
Wanted it. She doesn't. She wants to maybe perform, but she doesn't want to be a star. She can't be a star. And he's going to try and force her into this lifestyle that he knows effectively killed Elvis.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Oh, hoping for an argument, but...
No, I agree.
Okay.
At the diner the next day, Julie tells Sam that Sue Ann won't be showing up for this audition.
So a downbeat Al tells him that she's at home and she and Frank are going to set off for Louisville and get a marriage licence before they leave. What does that mean, they get a marriage licence before they leave?
So you need to get a licence from the county. Just the same as you do here, you need to get a marriage licence before you can get married.
Yeah, but you can go somewhere and
yeah, but if they
get
take it with them, they can get married immediately.
Right, but you can just pick up one when you're there.
I think you need to maybe be registered in the... It's not like Vegas where you can just show up and anyone will
I was going to say
marry you. I think a lot of places you need to be resident.
Right. Okay. Al insists that he's got to let her go and he has to prioritise his audition in 30 minutes, but...
Sam knows better.
And he sets off for Elm Street.
Arriving at Sue Ann's home, Sam decides he has the power to persuade her to completely change her plans.
Listen to me. You don't have to look at me. You don't have to talk to me. But you have to, in a half an hour, sing with me.
The heck I do.
Look, it's your dream. You waited your whole life for this.
I told you I don't believe in no dreaming.
Yeah, well, I do. And I got enough dreams for the both of us.
Look, I'm 19 years old. It's time for me to settle down.
What are you talking about? It's time for you to shake things up. Take a chance for a change.
If I get mixed up with the likes of you, then it could cost me marrying a decent man like Frank.
Look, you think about this. Think about 20 years from now. You wake up one morning, all of a sudden you're wondering what might have happened today.
Sue Ann, you get in this house.
Come in, Mama.
What have you got to lose? You come with me, you audition for Mr. Phillips, he doesn't sign you, you come back, you marry Frank.
But what if he likes us?
Wouldn't that be a wonderful choice to have?
I'll go get my music.
All right.
First things first, 19. Can I just say, we've discussed this before in Quantum Leap, there was some character who was quite clearly older than what they claimed to be.
Yeah.
I have seen the most egregious example of this last night.
Okay, what were you watching?
I was watching with my son the crappy Stephen King Maximum Overdrive about trucks that doesn't matter, killer trucks and things like that. It's a B movie. It's nonsense, but a bit of fun. Anyone who's seen it might be aware there's a waitress who works in this diner that's all set around. And as I do my thing, after watching it, I'm going through seeing who's still alive and dead and who's been in other things.
Okay.
Get to the waitress. Now, I promise, without any exaggeration, I had assumed she played the typical diner, sort of hard-living, downbeat, world-weary waitress at these the roadside diners, right? Smoking a cigarette all the time, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't think she would have been a day under 40. If you told me she was 55, I would have quite easily believed it.
Okay.
I'm looking up going, where would the usual IMDb?
Yeah.
She was 21, 22 in it. Honestly, this is a lie. I'm not. I don't care what they say. It's either a mistake or a complete and utter fabrication. There was absolutely no way. There was a kid in it who was 12 at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, she's only meant to be 10 years older than this little boy here. No way. So if anyone can remember Maximum Overdrive, the diner, 21, 22 at the time, absolutely at it. Anyway, what happened? Where were we?
Oh, you mean she maybe lied in her date of birth on IMDb?
Well, either she's lying or it's a mistake, but there's zero chance.
I mean, that's not unheard of, because a lot of people have talked about this. They couldn't get work because their date of birth was revealed.
Yeah, no, I talked about it. It's a well-known thing that, people like Joan Collins, for example, there was debate. But you're only talking 3 or 4 years. This woman honestly looked well into her 40s and she said she was 21, 22.
But people aged in dog years back then.
Yeah.
We've seen this before in Quantum and other shows.
But I couldn't believe it. Anyhow, let's get back to where we were.
Yeah, so Sam's plan fails because they show up too late to the studio and it's shut. And Sue-Ann realises this means she has no talent and storms off.
Yes, she resigns herself to a life of mediocrity and says goodbye. Al finds his despondent friend moping around outside the studio and assures him that he did help her, but he hasn't leapt because he hasn't made things right for Elvis yet.
That's it. Phillips is in the diner, as we heard at the top of the show, and Sam heads there.
Yeah, well, he's told that he has to sing Blue Moon of Kentucky and That's All Right, Mama, which brings a massive smile to his face. He obviously is confident he can pull that off, yeah. So in the diner, Sam introduces himself to the pair in the booth.
Phillips appears to be dining with Roger Black.
the 80s athlete, 90s.
80s and 90s athlete, yeah.
Okay. He was a bit of a housewife's favourite, I believe.
Oh, no doubt.
Back then, yeah. He begs for 5 minutes of his time to make up for missing the audition. That's a bit cheeky, isn't it? Like, you weren't there.
Yeah, no, and throughout this episode, I'm confused by Philip's reaction to things. Because 1 minute he's like, yeah, I really want to hear you. And then it's like, well, yeah, maybe later. And then it's like, oh, no, this was really good. And then, oh, I'm not sure. No,
yeah.
This was really... It's like, Anyway.
In any case, Julie, the waitress, shouts across that he is the best.
Well, that's enough to persuade them.
Yeah, Phillips agrees he can have 5 minutes and they head back to the studio. And when there, he is told that he can only perform one song.
Yeah, instead of thinking, oh, right, he must really like the first one and ask me to play the second, he starts to have a nervous breakdown.
Yes, he has a bit of mumbling to Al and is told to go for Blue Moon, which then gets Phillips interested enough to allow him to do one more.
It kind of works. He plays Blue Moon of Kentucky, which Phillips says he likes and says to make an appointment to see him again a little bit later.
We've seen this before with Sam. He very quickly gets into it. He enjoys himself. He knows the song. I mean, we know he's got musical ability.
Well, we'll come back to that point.
What do you mean? He's a concert pianist.
He's a concert pianist, that's true.
He's a lot of musical ability.
Yeah, he's got some musical ability.
More than Elvis.
This is the question. Well, I can ask the question now if you want.
Go for it.
We're meant to believe from watching this episode that Sam is capable of winning the contract that Elvis won as Elvis because Elvis was so special.
Elvis's mannerisms and actions are so iconic that just about anyone can put on a reasonable...
So as a mimic, it not having been seen before, it's enough to get his foot in the door, and then the real Elvis will take it on from there. We're going to let him go with that.
This is something entirely different. Like, Elvis is different from everyone else. So you don't have to be as good as Elvis at his peak. You just have to be better than your average country and western star who was around.
Out, it'll be picked up to the right level. Okay, well, I'll let him go with that. However, at the end of this audition, he pushes Phillips too hard.
Yeah, he doesn't appreciate Sam arguing for another song. He's got no clue. He can't read the room, can he?
No, never, because he doesn't believe that anyone's doing anything other than being straightforward with him, so he can't understand when things don't go how he expects.
And he has to watch as Phillips leaves to return to his diner meeting, and it gets worse.
Yeah, outside Al tells Sam that he's blown it and Elvis will never get the second edition and all of his best songs are going to be recorded by lesser acts.
Including the Monkees.
Yes.
I think they do Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah.
And so Sam asks what other hit Elvis recorded after That's All Right Mama, and is told that his next was Baby Let's Play House. It's a little bit creepy that these days.
Honestly, I would have given a lot of money for the closing credits to have the Monkees playing Heartbreak Hotel. That would have been phenomenal.
Well, these days with AI, you could easily have done that.
I get the remaining Monkees. Are any of them dead? I don't know. Probably some dead. Get this and then play it, re-record.
So back at the diner, Phillips is back in his booth with the DJ, and Sam bursts in with his guitar, and Al advises him not to hold back. And fortunately for him, there's a partly I feel now it's fine having the chef with the harmonica.
The guy with the saxophone and everything else.
No, I feel like a full band. There's a guy with a double bass.
Yeah, what's going on?
Like I say, I know it's a musical town, but not everyone's all tuned up and ready to go.
It would have been better if it was Little Billy C with his sax.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, the cook gets his Smithy back out, and this entire swing band starts kicking up around him, and Sam plays and walks along the bar and slides in front of Phillips, who is won over and signs him on the spot.
Well, yeah, it's a rousing performance, and I think that what maybe swings it as well is he sees the reaction from the local girls, and he thinks, if they like it, that's where the money is.
A winner, yeah. Al tells Sam he has now saved Elvis's career, but they're not sure why he hasn't leaped.
The answer we discover lies with Sue Ann. We're at her house outside.
Yeah, Al's already told Sam, remember, that she and Frank are heading to get married. Yes,
they're packing up their car when Sam runs up to them with the news he thinks she should be happy to hear.
Sue Ann, I got you your own audition, all by yourself.
I thought the audition was at noon.
Well, mine was. And guess what? Mr. Phillips signed me. I got a contract, see? And I got you your own audition. And look, I did it. You can too.
She'll do no such thing.
Oh, what harm could it do, Frank?
A lady don't work for a living. She most surely don't sing for a living.
But it's what I want to do.
Sue Ann. I just don't cotton to the idea of my wife being a circus act.
Oh, Frank, it's not like that. Is Doris Day a circus act? Is Debbie Reynolds a circus act? Oh, Frankie, there's nothing wrong with singing. Don't you see?
What I see is a fine young lady who wants something from life that I can't give her. Now, maybe some man can, but I can't.
You can if you want to.
It's gotta be the way it's gotta be. Now, either you get in this car, you come away with me now, you don't come at all. Well, I guess that's all the answer I need. I owe you an apology.
Accepted.
To wrap this bit up, Al confirms that Sue Ann goes on to have an insignificant and very short music career of her own before falling into poverty and dying at the age of 26.
He doesn't hear that.
Well, not that last bit, but the rest of it he does.
Yeah, okay, before we get to that, we mentioned earlier, everything about Frank would be understandable, even acceptable, if it wasn't for the domestic abuse they brought up.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he wants a traditional or trad wife is fairly common, I imagine, in the 50s.
Fairly common, the standard.
I mean, even if we look at the episode from, was it the 60s, when with the feminism stuff, and the husbands and that wanted their wives to behave in a certain way.
Even today, the people who would say, I'd rather not have my wife being, or the other partner, I just want normality. So there's nothing, you can't force and you shouldn't abuse or oppress anyone, but wanting that is not unreasonable.
And at the end, he doesn't fight her. He says, okay, on you go. It's not for me, but
he's lost. The best man's won, that type of thing. Yeah, shakes hand, let's go. Which would have been fine. You say, okay, Frank's a reasonable guy. He's just old-fashioned or he's of his time.
Yeah.
No problem with that whatsoever. But they've let go someone who we know is a domestic abuser.
Yeah, so now Sue Ann's not going to get abused by this particular guy, but he presumably is going on to abuse his actual, whoever he does marry, and maybe many other women.
Yeah. So it's not...
who weren't abused in the original timeline by him.
Exactly. You should not have brought that. There was no reason to bring the domestic violence into this.
I think it's just to make him unsympathetic.
But they could have done that with the scene where he punched him and then pretended to be the victim.
They could have made him conniving or whiny or something like that, rather than...
dangerous.
Yes.
So, anyway, he drives off. I'll notice that, as you say, Sue Ann doesn't have much of a career, but she does get to perform in the opera. Her dream is
her dream is fulfilled, and then she dies sad, miserable.
Not just that. No, that's the thing as well. She starts an Elvis fan club. She turns at this point and admits to Sam that she's scared. You would be now that you have dramatically, in an instant, changed her life.
Irrevocably,
yes. You've split her up from her fiancé.
Yes.
you've set her on a path that you know leads nowhere.
And Elvis isn't going to support her on that because he's got his own career to have.
Oh, yeah. But it's not just that. We find out that she ends up running with the first, or one of the first, Elvis fan clubs. So she dedicates her life basically to being...
watching him marry somebody else and have kids with somebody, or a kid with somebody else and die young.
My previous partner, my duet partner, someone who was in sort of equal terms with me, is now a world superstar, and I'm just running his fan club.
Sending badges to people.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is a happy ending.
I know. He knows what happens after this point now, and he tells her, he smiles stupidly and tells her to reach for the stars until she touches them. He's been told by Al,
this won't happen for her.
She runs his fan club.
Well, maybe Sam sees that as a worthy goal.
No, it's not a worthy goal. That's not reaching for the stars.
I don't even think that would be a remunerated position.
Oh, no, I'd say a fan club of his
she's
size.
taking
massive.
subs, I guess.
No, that will be a full-time 8-10 hour a day job, responding to all the letters from around the world. No,
if it's an official fan club, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Licensed by him.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sam gives her a big hug and leaps
into an empty 50s style looking bar where he orders a 15-cent beer before getting an almighty shock.
He looks in the mirror and sees his own reflection,
which literally sort of takes his breath away as he utters his, "Oh boy." Okay?
Yeah, so we've kind of addressed most of the things I was going to ask you, but the one you asked me to bring up is, did he really help Sue Ann?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think it's a happy ending for her. I mean, I'm not saying it's not better than what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Maybe a bit. Well, she doesn't get beaten up by that particular guy.
She might get beaten up by someone else.
We don't know.
Yeah, she has a career which flops, so it's what they've said to her there is, you did try and you were a failure.
You essentially proved her right when she said that it's not for her.
What he could have said there was, knowing that he knows the future, listen, give it a go. You don't have to. Success isn't about necessarily topping the charts, being the star. Success is and maybe that's all I meant, was performing at the Opry.
That's your success.
And that is your success. We've all got different ways of judging it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's he could have lessened her expectations, I suppose, considering what he goes on to do.
Yeah.
And considering who else comes out of that area.
Lots of them. Mm-hmm. Oh well. That's the end of the last regular episode, I guess, of the season. One more to go.
Yep.
So, trivia.
Sure.
This aired originally on the 20th of April 1993, so it's 3 weeks after the previous one. It's a bit of a mess they've made of the scheduling at the end of this run. Directed by James Whitmore Jr. This was the 14th of his 15 episodes. He started off in Jimmy. If you want to hear more about him, go back to that podcast. It was written by Robin Bernheim, the last of her 5. And if you want to hear more about her, the podcast to tune into is The Leaping of the Shrew. Sue Ann was played by Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. This was her only quantum leap. She's also in things like Xena Warrior Princess, Murder, She Wrote, Star Trek Voyager, as well as doing an extensive amount of voice acting, mostly in animes, Marvel shows, and for Star Wars Rebels. She's now 58 and still active. Her fiancé Frank was played by John Scott Clough. This was his only quantum leap. He's also in things like The Love Boat, St. Elsewhere, Herman's Head, and Melrose Place. He's now 64 and his last screen credit was in 2005. Mary in the Talent Scout was played by Lisa Jane Persky. Again, her only quantum leap. She's also in things like The Incredible Hulk, The Golden Girls, When Harry Met Sally, and The X-Files. And she's now 69. Her last screen credit was in 2006. Elvis's mother, Mrs. Presley, was played by Garn Stevens. It's an interesting name, Garn. Mm-hmm. This was her only quantum leap. She's also in things like Halloween 3, St. Elsewhere, and Charlie's Angels. This episode was her last screen acting credit, and she died in 2023 at the age of 78. I mean, she looks 78 in this. Sam Phillips was played by the aforementioned Gregory Itzin, his only quantum leap. Although I think he could have made a career entirely out of playing Richard Nixon and stuff. He actually built a long and quite celebrated CV before his death in 2022 at the age of 74. He was in things like 24, for which he was Emmy nominated, Matlock, Murder One, lots of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. He's been in Friends, he was in the movie Lincoln, lots and lots of things.
Matlock, you say, yeah?
Yeah, interesting, that one. Bo, at the start, who was trying to cut Sam's hair, was played by Eric Bruscotter. This is the third of his 3 quantum leaps. If you want to hear a little bit about him, go back to the podcast for some general trivia. Sam's reflection was played by Michael St. Gerard, or San Gerard, he's previously played Elvis in 3 other productions. Scott Bakula's daughter Chelsea played the very young girl in the first diner scene. Red West was played by John Boyd West, who is the real-life son of Red West.
Yes.
He also played his father in a 2005 miniseries.
Did you mention the waitress Julie? Yeah.
About to.
Ah, right, okay.
So Sue Ann's younger sister Julie was played by Melissa, who is the younger sister herself of Robin Bernheim, the writer of the episode.
Yeah, she's a producer of Quantum Leap and a lot of Star Trek.
The writer, yes. Yeah, we mentioned her back on her first episode.
Right.
In terms of things that we learned, Al loves Elvis and not Sonny and Cher.
Sam was a big Elvis fan. He programmed Ziggy with all his work, apparently.
Yes, and they listened to a lot of Elvis when they were in the early days of the Quantum Leap project.
Okay. I've got some trivia.
On you go.
So Taylor's restaurant, the diner, was on 710 Union Avenue. The original address of Sun Studios before Sam Phillips moved it to Madison Avenue was 706 Union Avenue, so it was
next
right
door,
beside each other, yeah. Marion, and I think it's Keisker, was the first person ever to record Elvis. Her exchange with him on that occasion has since become part of Elvis lore. She said, "What kind of singer are you?" And he said, "I sing all kinds." She said, "Who do you sound like?" And he said, "I don't sound like nobody."
They should have put that in the episode. In terms of things that happened on this day, not much on the 3rd, which was the first day of the episode. There's an artist called Reginald Marsh that died, but on the 4th, West Germany pulled off the miracle of Bern, defeating the magical Magyars of Hungary in the World Cup final against all odds, and post-World War II food rationing finally ended in the UK.
Number ones.
Okay.
In the UK, Frankie Lane with I Believe, whilst in the US it was Percy Faith and Orchestra with the song from Moulin Rouge, brackets, Where Is Your Heart?
I believe on the 5th of July, actually, in real life, Elvis recorded his first single.
Okay.
At Sun Records. Next week, Sam finds himself amongst familiar faces in a Pittsburgh mining community in mirror image. So, we'll see you in 1953.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.